So my best advice would be you have to do something that you love. You have to do something that you deeply are passionate about and believe in. Because if you don't, that game of entrepreneurship just may not be enough to keep you going. I would say most of the people that I've met that are successful entrepreneurs are doing something that they really deep down love, are passionate about, and believe in. And that's what keeps them motivated through all the thick and thin. A small business owner and an entrepreneur is so rewarding because you get to inject your core values into everything that you do, into everyone that you surround yourself with. Branding isn't the facade that you present. Branding is who you authentically are.
Welcome to the Get Business Savvy podcast. I'm George Black, and this is AJ Bishop. So in celebrating Entrepreneur Month, which is the month of November, we're interviewing entrepreneurs and getting their business savvy experience so that we don't have to go through the same pain they did to get it. And I want to welcome Lara August to our podcast today.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Very nice to get to meet you today, Lara. Thank you for taking the time.
Lara's company, Robot Creative, started 25 years ago. So this is their 25th anniversary year. They're having big celebration. And for those of you on YouTube, you can see all their awards because this is a marketing branding company. They do strategy. Lara, let's just start off with what got you to become an entrepreneur?
Well, I always say, I feel like I was born an entrepreneur. I don't know that I became an entrepreneur. There's the whole nature nurture question, right? From a very young age, I was always finding these weird ways to earn a dime or make money, right? And by the time I got to high school and was old enough to have a real job, I was thinking, well, I could sell these comic books or coloring books, or I could teach art lessons, and, two kids at $24 an hour each for 2 hours at a shot. And wow, that made the Gap look like a really bad employment opportunity, right? So, being creative and being artistic, that's part of my nature. I've just always made things. And so I knew that it would be some form of creation that I would be involved in, and then just pair that with all these weird, odd ways that I found to make money. It made it really hard to work for other people.
And so what I'm hearing in your answer there is that you're very artsy by nature. And is that kind of your passion? And I know what we talk about a lot here is being able to monetize your passion. And I know art in particular is a fairly difficult passion to monetize. How did you kind of find a way to do that?
Well, first of all, I have the most awesome dad in the world. I had fantastic grades. I could have gone into law school or medical school, whatever I wanted to do, I could have done. And I remember going to my dad my senior year and looking at colleges and what it was I was going to study. And I told him, well, I'm considering law because all my art teachers told me you don't want to be a starting artist. You either need to study business or you need to study law or, something else and maybe do art on the side. And my dad got really upset when he heard that this was the counsel that these teachers had given me. And these were great teachers, don't get me wrong, but he really, the disappointment showed in his face and his voice, everything. And he went over to the internet, and back at those days, it was like AOL dial-up, right? Yeah. So he manages to find a website that lists different professions, and he found a chart that showed the pay ranges for all these different professions. And at the low end, they're all pretty low, no matter what what profession you go into. And at the high end, they're all pretty high, no matter what profession you go into. And they had, fine artists, and they had a scale that showed some really successful fine artists. And my dad said, look, how good, the people that are at this high end, they're the ones that love what they're doing. Like, you never achieve greatness if you're doing something that you don't truly love. So think about it. If you're doodling in the margins of your law book, how good of a lawyer are you going to be, right? And so I'm so fortunate to have a dad that encouraged me. And I have an older brother that's a journalist. I mean, two most notoriously underpaid professions in the history of the world, right? Like art and writing. And so I'm really grateful for him. I know a lot of people don't have that kind of support. So he was very encouraging in us studying and getting a liberal arts education that allowed us to not just study those crafts, but have a more broad understanding of the world at the same time.
So let's go now. because you started Robot Creative.
Right.
So
Okay.
how did
connect the dots, right? That was my educational background. So in college, I was looking at triple majoring in German art and business. When I got into college, I realized that this was really commercial art that I was looking at. There was a lot of printmaking. There was a lot of arts groups that around the turn of the century were really doing very commercial work that was printed and reproduced in mass. And that was what was really inspiring to me. And then I got to, study that in Germany, and I decided not to study business because I wouldn't have been able to take my art classes and do the same overseas studies programs. I lived in Chicago immediately before moving down here. When I moved to San Antonio, the climate was just so different. It's just a much smaller city in so many ways that I frankly had difficulty finding a job. And I would have always been an entrepreneur, that's guaranteed, but I did it probably much younger and much earlier than I would have preferred, just because I found a way to make money on my own and was struggling to find a job in my field here in San Antonio. So that's kind of how Robot was born.
One of the things that we're really interested in is preserving your passion inside your business, because for a lot of entrepreneurs, and you've got now 25 years under your belt, and you're leading your business, it's growing, you've got employees, the whole bit. What is the passion you have in your business, and how do you preserve it?
Sure. What started as a design passion. So I started as a graphic designer. I did a lot of branding at first, and that was really my focus was doing branding for my clients. Over the years, as I acquired a small web firm. There's another young person, because we were like 22-year-old entrepreneurs that wanted to go back to college. So I acquired his assets and some used conference furniture and some clients and one employee. And so then we started doing websites, right? And that was when websites were just getting started. So we kind of added that service. And then as I added some employees, we added marketing services. And so the business has really evolved over a 25-year period. It's very different from where I originally started. And I have a director of branding right now. I don't actually touch the graphic design of any client work at all anymore. And I always joke that like Andrew's got my job, right? Like that was the job. that was why I started the business. But the truth is I'm as much an entrepreneur as I am a creative person. And so every time I meet a new client, every time we have a new project, every time there's a new problem, a new business to analyze and to work out and to help succeed, that's very riveting for me. And so I love the continually being able to meet and work with entrepreneurs and to learn their stories. Probably the same reason you guys love doing these interviews, right? I think it's so personally rewarding. I mean, we made a choice a long time when I first started the business not to work with some of the big corporations in town, because we had a few experiences where it just didn't feel the same as working directly with entrepreneurs, where we could see the impact on their business and on their staff. And it's just really rewarding.
And I've got a little inside information, because you showed me some pictures of wallpaper designs that you're doing and things like that. And so I'm going to ask a leading question, but you can straighten it out. But it seems like the success of your business and the way it's evolved and your leadership of it is actually providing you freedom to go pursue and go back into some of your first loves.
It is. Yeah. So
talk about that a minute.
Sure. So I do design on my own in my, free time. I have 2 kids, so I only have so much of that free time, but there's precious moments that I do have. I'm, to my dad's point, I can't stop creating. It's almost like an affliction, any creative person can identify with, is that you can't not be creating. It's like a singer that's not singing every moment of the day, right? So I've been studying surface design, which people always ask, what is that? What does that mean? Or pattern design. So when you see wallpapers or textiles or printed pieces, housewares, there's a variety of different uses for it, but making seamless or repeating patterns, like I could, this doesn't make sense to pull one up on my phone, but I could, you could put some links to it. We could blend some into the screenshot or something. So Send
us some of the pictures and we'll put them on the.
Want to see some wallpaper? Okay. So I've been studying kind of the the geometry and the theory behind, I always like picking the really challenging stuff. It's been part of, I find the most difficult problem and it just grates at me. And so I've read these books on pattern theory and design, trying to build a seamless repeating pattern that has beauty that's still modern. I don't know. It's just really challenging and really rewarding. So this is what I kind of do when I can't sleep in the middle of the night or early in the morning, when I can find free time on the weekend.
Does this fuel you in your entrepreneurial business, in the marketing business, the Robot Creative? In other words, like if you didn't have another creative outlet, would you be bored?
I don't think I know what that word means. I mean, I'm learning French. I'm taking piano lessons. Like,
okay, all right.
When you look at my strengths finder, I'm a learner. Anytime I find a new subject, I'm kind of intrigued and fascinated by it. And I definitely tend toward the more creative, expressive routes. But I don't know what it means to be bored. There will never be enough hours in my lifetime to do all the things I'm interested in.
Cool. Yeah. So one of the things that we've been talking about with Get Business Savvy is that there's really two ways to get it. One is through the School of Hard Knocks, and which is the way most entrepreneurs seem to get business savvy over the years. And it takes a long time. But what we're about is trying to share experiences to keep us from having to go through all the pain and get business savvy if we can submit to the experience we're hearing about and follow that advice. My first question in this realm is how have you acquired business savvy over the years?
Yeah, so mine is definitely Hard Knocks. I kind of wish I had heeded some of that advice and gone to business school. I mean, starting as a solo entrepreneur, I've had to learn everything. I've had to learn the bookkeeping. I've had to learn the legal. I've had to learn the HR. I've had to, I'm the best IT person in the company still, just because I've had to deal with every single thing, right? Like I'm literally so cheap. I'll say, please run it by me first, because I don't want to rack up the charges of the IT company. I can get it 9 out of 10 times. I know when we need them. So
did you turn off the computer and turn it back on?
Oh yeah, exactly. Like, please try a restart before you even come to me. Let's learn that lesson quick. It was definitely Hard Knocks, and there were definitely lots of really painful lessons learned. Probably my best advice, like 1, go to business school or plan on learning it along the way. If you're not interested in ever studying or learning business, finance, and HR and management and all of those things, it's probably not necessarily the right path for you. But related to that is partners. There's a lot of challenges that can come with having partners, but I have partners, and I saw my business, my husband's business and their partnership function in such an amazing way. And I've had one partner that came and went early on, and I have 2 partners right now. And we've actually structured my business to evolve so that young people working within the firm can work their way into partnership. And that'll provide more of a retirement than a business ownership. Even a small portion or a modest portion is more than what you'd have from a 401k at a job. So to me, partnering means getting these additional skill sets. You have, you're not alone, being the entrepreneur, like I said earlier, it's really challenging at times. And so to have people to go it with you is really, really important. And I had a lot of people tell me, don't do it, don't bring partners in. And they were wrong. I think it's a great way to complement your own skill sets and to help scale a business.
So like you were just saying, on learning all the different facets on the business side of the business, how much did it take you out of doing the creative part of the business that you're really that's the passion? I
might still be the creative director if I hadn't had to learn all of those things, is the honest truth. Like,
okay.
It's very possible that I would still be the creative director.
And you're talking about your partners there. When you're bringing in these partners to make it successful, one of the things we've talked about a lot on this podcast is the power of story and how that can unify a company. I'm wondering, from your perspective, since you make a lot of successful marketing campaigns, how does story play a role in, making a successful business, and how have you leveraged it?
So we use the word branding as opposed to story. To me, story story could be authentic, but it could also be fiction. And so we, from a branding perspective, we're always looking at core values and what the authenticity is of a brand, right? What we try to live and breathe, it all starts with our core values. We believe in collaboration and ownership and learner mentality and passion. And when you take all of these things and screen for it in the interviewing process, and you look for partners that believe in those same things, then all of a sudden you have this magic that happens where everybody's on the same page, and you present that well to the public, to your clients, to the hiring process. It kind of permeates everything.
When you said those core values, Laura, it sounds like you're describing yourself.
I'm sure that it's very closely related to my personal core values. Yes.
I think this is really important, especially for entrepreneurs that are starting out, and I like the authenticity. In my book, The Next Level Entrepreneur, I call them guiding principles. In other words, these are the principles we use to guide us. They're core values. It's the same thing. And I like the way that sweeps into establishing the brand, because the brand is who you are, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Branding isn't the facade that you present. Branding is who you authentically are. Like, the brand is the sum total of everyone's experience with your company, right? And if our job or our challenge as designers and as marketers is to filter and understand what those authentic pieces of the company are, and then help present that in an intriguing visual and verbal way so that we're capturing kind of that essence. And I think that that's the fun and the challenge in what we do when we're doing branding projects. But I do think it's important for how you live and run your business. Being a small business owner and an entrepreneur is so rewarding because you get to inject your core values into everything that you do,
right,
into everyone that you surround yourself with.
Yeah, I do want to point out for everyone listening that one of those values that you just said was collaboration. If you don't have a guiding principle, a core value of collaboration, partnering may not work as well as it does for Laura.
Okay, that's a good point. Yeah.
I mean, seriously, because I've worked with enough entrepreneurs, business, and helped lead in businesses where, these guys weren't collaborators and it wasn't going to work. Well. Yeah, it didn't work real well. But what you're talking about is it's all seamless into who you are and the principles you're bringing into it. So one of the most colorful bruises you've gotten in the school of hard knocks.
I mean, there are so many. There are so many. I mean, I have not paid myself well. I have gone into debt. I have, had a business partner that didn't work out, and I didn't get that bruised by that because she was amazing. I mean, I have had so many things that I've been through that it's really challenging to pick. I mean, 25 years, pretty much everything.
Well, yeah, I know that's not a fair question, right? But as you look back, okay, this is good. As you look back over the 25 years, what have been some of those learning moments where you go, wow, I didn't like going through that, but I learned so much?
Right. So the creative person I was when I started the business, we would do all of these fun side projects, for lack of a better word. We ran an art gallery within our space for the first, it was probably 10 years. And when I say we ran an art gallery within our space, we would pick up the furniture and move it and install a full art exhibit and have it open to the public and promote the shows. And I love the arts. I loved working with the artists. I loved having these events. It was fun to have customers come in and get to meet them in a different context and to see a different aspect of who we were. But it was so much work. There was no money involved in it. I mean, very, very little. I'm sure we didn't break even on that endeavor, despite my best efforts to sell artwork. Basically, when I had kids, I had a business advisor and a long-term mentor come in and say, I know that these projects are really fun, but you're not Google, right? Like, Google has their 10% projects or whatever. They can do all this fun stuff on the side. And I'm just saying art gallery. There's a whole list of things that we did that were fun endeavors. And he was like, maybe you should just buckle down and focus on the P&L and, get your numbers where they need to be. And he wasn't wrong, right? I mean, we were younger, had more energy before one of my partners and I had kids separately. We had a lot more capacity to do all of that. And what he was really pointing out in a very kind and gentle way was a lack of revenue focus and a lack of just financial focus. I was way too far in when I really started to keep scorecards. And I mean, we kept our financials in order all along, but when we really started to understand the scorecards and the KPIs and the drivers and all of that, I mean, that's when things really got interesting from a business standpoint.
That's really good, because I've described it as making decisions based on the numbers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it doesn't mean you don't go forward, even if it's a break-even proposition or even a losing proposition, but you understand what you're setting yourself up for.
Absolutely.
And then there's also not just dollars, but it's time, it's hours, there's, like you said, KPIs, key performance indexes, and things that work for your business.
It took me a minute to figure those out as a creative person. We did lots of creative things and lots of great work, but in terms of understanding the business side of it, that took a minute.
Yeah. No, that's a huge learning. Too bad you had to go through the School of Hard Knocks to figure that out.
It's okay.
And as a creative person in a creative company, did you ever like over adjust in that, where you became too bogged down in the numbers and too bogged down in the business side of things that it almost stifled the creativity?
There's actually a raging debate in our industry, and there has been for as long as I've been paying attention to things like KPIs and numbers, about tracking time and charging for time versus charging for value. So getting a bunch of creative people to track everything that they do every second of every day is the equivalent of like little unicorns diving off of a cliff and just dying one after the other in a big mess at the bottom of the cliff. I mean, like it's torture and it's really painful. And I am one of those people. I can identify with that. So it's challenging. It's really hard to stay focused on those numbers without making it a burden. And so you have to hire people that are okay with that. And we have to screen for it. We have to explain why this is a critical, important part of the role, even though it might stink a little bit, right? That this is what allows us to pay more than the average graphic designers in San Antonio, that allows us to offer benefits that are beyond what small creative firms usually do. And so by sharing, I think, that information with the team, they have some context for why we're having to do these painful things.
So that really leads to another question I was wondering about. How do you lead?
I love what I do. So leading with passion and inspiration and collaboration, transparency, again, getting back to all of those core values. We're incredibly transparent within our company. I keep it real. There's a lot that I don't know. I try not to have an ego. I prefer to work with people that don't have giant egos. And own your mistakes, come forward with them. Nobody's going to get fired for making a mistake, but you will get fired for lying at Robot. We don't permit lying. So that's where, again, living that transparency core value, it's really, really important that we're just open and honest and transparent here.
So been talking about a quick snapshot of the last 25 years and what Lara has learned and the business savvy and all of that. Where are you headed next? I'm really just asking about you, the entrepreneur, creative leader, and with a lot of business savvy now.
Thank you. Well, I've been mentoring startups for about the past 12 or 13 years and started angel investing right about the same time. And the businesses that Robot traditionally had worked with were very well established, large small businesses. So between 15 and 50 million in revenue, they've been in business 25 years or more on average, right? So we do work with some startups. We've done a lot of branding for startups, but we've done a lot more rebranding. We've done a lot more remessaging and developing plans for established businesses. So when I started working with startups, it was super inspirational just to see what's new, what's out there. And now to have the means to be able to work with these entrepreneurs and to invest in their businesses. So definitely working as I evolve my role here at Robot and move into truly more of a CEO role where I've got team members who are much more qualified to do every aspect of the business that I've learned along these years, right? I'm hiring key people that are much more educated and experienced and talented in each of these areas. So I get to use my generalist experience and move into this CEO role and invest in and help these startups. And that's just hugely rewarding and super fun.
And I would assume you're bringing in all of the branding and marketing and strengths with all of that to these startups, right?
Yeah, I mean, I usually get paired with companies that are lacking the marketing side. That's my superpower, right? So there'll be a brilliant scientist or engineer or a software product, but they are missing something on the marketing side. And you really need that go-to-market strategy to win over investors and to prove your case. So helping them with audience validation and, it's a little bit of branding, but it's a lot more audience validation and proof, helping to build out that pipeline that I get pulled in on.
Lara, this has been fantastic. Any final thoughts you want to share?
Well, I want to help you plug your book because reading The Next Level Entrepreneur was definitely a game changer for me. We have done everything from using the Rockefeller habits kind of scaling up method to EOS, and there's certainly aspects of that, but the book was a surprisingly interesting read. I wasn't expecting the whole storyline that was built into it, and I thought it was great. And the concept of the next level has been really freeing for us as a company. I don't want to give any spoilers. Everyone should read the book, understand what the next level concept is, and employ it in your business because it's been a game changer. So thank you for that, George.
Well, thank you. Yeah. And of course, there's links in the description below for the book. And Lara, how can people follow up with you?
Absolutely. So I'm really easy to find on LinkedIn. So you can just search for Lara August and I should be easy to find there. And then robotcreative.com is the business URL. So those are the two best ways to connect and see what we're up to.
Okay, so we'll have that in the description as well. Well, thank you so much for celebrating Entrepreneur Month and coming on and sharing your business savvy experiences.
Excellent. Thank you for having me. It's been fun.
Thank you, Lara. It was great meeting you.
Nice to meet you too.
So guys, for more conversations like this one, check out last week's video. I know you're going to love it. And until next time, may you live truly free.